Welcome to Hope, Health, and Ha-Has, the podcast where we talk about the real stuff: health, hormones, infertility, cancer, and everything in between. All with honesty, heart, and just enough humor to remind us we're human. I'm your host, Winny Chan, engineer, soon-to-be National Board Certified Wellness Coach, founder and board member of the Ray of Light Fertility Foundation. And today I want to start right where my journey really began, and when my husband and I decided we were ready to start a family. After being together for 5 years and engaged for 3 in American culture and married in an Asian culture, we decided in 2022 that it was finally time to grow our family. At that time, all my close friends already had kids. And here's the kicker. None of them were even trying when they got pregnant, and they got pregnant. They would tell me stories that were so casually. It was like on a girls' night out, and we're getting drunk. And they would be like, just get drunk and have sex. It'll happen. Or go on a trip. It'll happen. But on a serious note, they did tell me to go see an OB doctor and start prenatal pills early, just to make sure everything was good. And I thought, okay, pretty simple. All I have to do is take prenatal vitamins, track my ovulation, and boom, baby. This is easy. So I went to the OB, explained that we were ready, and she asked me, have you been having unprotected sex? And I was like, yes. She's like, well, how long? And I'm like, 5 years. So she told me that usually if you've been trying for a year without success, doctors will refer you to a fertility specialist. But since we weren't tracking ovulation intentionally, she recommended we try 1 more year with proper cycle tracking. That's when reality hit. The first 2 months of tracking were fine. It almost felt exciting, really like hopeful, you're planning it. But then month after month, my period would show up, and with it came disappointment, stress, pressure, anxiety. We used to feel fun and intimate and started to feel like homework. Perform on this day at this time, whether you like it or not, you had to be ready. It's just so much pressure. However, there's sometimes it wasn't even stress that ruined the moment. It was hunger. We'll come home after a long day, ready for the baby making window, and suddenly, my stomach would growl so loud. And I just kept thinking about food. And we'll stop mid-makeout and be like, okay, wait, do we want to go out for dinner now? Get pizza? Or should we continue trying like this? Even though we're so focused on food, we're starting to get hangry. And let's be honest, many times when it came down to pizza, it won more than once. And I remember we would just laugh about it and be like, you know what? Forget this time, stupid sex. We are ready for some time, food, because hangry makes sex boring. And you can't even have sex. You're just laying there anyways. So it's like, you might as well go eat and you're more satisfied. So after 6 months of this, we decided enough was enough. Like, let's just take the pressure off. Let's just jump to IUI. After all, the doctors, they could monitor my cycle. They could force induce an ovulation peak. And they could even wash the sperm and get the best swimmers. Like, it was no brainer to do that. Like, at the time we were like, why did we even wait this long? We should have just did that right off the bat instead of doing this trying, timing, peeing on a stick, all of that. So when we did our first IUI, we got pregnant right away. And it was during December. It was like the best Christmas gift ever. Like, we were just so excited, so happy. It couldn't come at a better timing. We felt like it was meant to be. But then the day before Christmas, I miscarried. We were hosting Christmas at our house that year. So while our families were laughing and celebrating, I was wearing this giant pad, quietly miscarrying, trying to hold it together. My husband and I would catch each other's eyes across the room, and behind our smiles, we both felt completely lost and broken. So once you miscarry, the doctor would request like a lab to check your HCG levels. And they want to make sure that your numbers are dropping, make sure that you don't have an ectopic pregnancy. So when I got those results, the engineer of me kicked in. Like, I went into control mode. I couldn't stop looking at my numbers, my HCG numbers, thinking maybe there's still a chance. Because as it was dropping every day when I kept going in to get the blood test, I was like, this isn't even below the threshold of losing a baby. I still have a chance. And I messaged the doctor begging for like progesterone, because I looked it up. They're like, progesterone helps hold the baby. So I was like, well, since it's not dropping that fast, maybe put me on progesterone. Give me progesterone test. And they kept saying no. But my brain kept saying, if the numbers aren't zero, then maybe we could save this pregnancy. To me, it was clearly a math. I even sent them in the My Chart messaging the calculation. And I was telling the nurse how to do the calculation math. And I did it by hand. And I was like, what you're calculating is incorrect. What mine is correct. Show me your math. Like, that's how cuckoo I was. Because I figured A plus B equals C. Then why didn't it work, right? It's simple. But what I learned is pregnancy isn't a math. And there's no amount of problem solving could have changed that outcome. And that was a really hard pill for me at that time to accept it. And here's another truth that no one talks about. Stepping into this crazy control mode when you slip into having a miscarriage. When your friend circle hasn't gone through it, you feel very alone and no one can relate. So what do? You go online. I wasn't just reading about healing from miscarriage. I was Googling IUI success stories, charts, tips to make it work the next time. And that's where I started spiraling down even further with me overanalyzing. And I thought, if I could control the variables, I can control the outcome. So when we went in for our second IUI, I was obsessed over everything. And when it didn't work, I blamed the doctor. I was analyzing from the method of the catheter insertion. The second doctor made it more difficult than the first one. So in my mind, I was like, that's a variability. That's the reason why it failed. And then it got even worse after my miscarriage and after the second IUI not working. I turned to this control as a way to cope. I analyzed every symptom, every cycle, defining possible failure modes like it was an engineering project. I thought, if I could change this, if I do that, maybe I can increase the chance of success. What crazy it is I was never like this. Like, when it came to my engineering career, being an entrepreneur, I wasn't thriving on the control. I wasn't thriving on trying to control everything because I trust the process. If something didn't work out, I'll say another time, on to the next. Even in my women's leadership program, I taught tools on manifesting, leadership styles, guided women through personality tests to better understand themselves. That program was so successful, not because I micromanage it, but because of believing it would work out. I embodied that mindset. It's already mine. It's already being worked out. But in the grief of the miscarriage, I lost that version of me. I lost the very mindset that I've been teaching to others. Instead of trusting, I slipped into the control. And it took me a long time to realize what I needed wasn't more analyzing. It was returning to my belief, to trust, and to heal. So here are some of the tools that I found that really helped me to cope with the miscarriage. I wish someone would have told me, or I wish I would have known, is giving yourself permission to grieve. Because miscarriage is a loss, and you're allowed to grieve through it. You're allowed to go through that process. It's okay to take a step back. It does not show that you're weak. And then communicating openly with your partner. Don't shut down. That was another thing, is like when you're in a control mode like I was, there was no emotion. It was like that was my coping mechanism. And instead of sharing how I was feeling or reaching out to him and asking how he was feeling, it was no communication at all. So really communicate openly with your partner. And then journaling or voice notes. Get the emotions out of your head and onto paper. And then another thing is gentle mind-body practices like taking yoga, breathe work, release that stress that's in your body that is causing blockages, because those affects your hormones, those affects your ovulation. Those are all stresses that you're causing more blockage in your body. And then setting boundaries. It's okay to say no to baby showers. It's okay to say no to family events if it hurts you, because you're going through the grieving process. You're trying to heal. And then another thing is honoring your baby, like lighting a candle, planting a tree, doing little things to honor them is a way of healing. And then another thing too is that I had a friend that said, you know what, why don't you try to seek support? Go see a therapist. So to me, seeking a support group was not easy. I mean, it's such a sensitive subject to even bring up to people or even to ask people. You go online and it's far and few you actually see a safe space blog area. And a lot of times when you do find it, like the baby center, it's so old. Like nobody else is going in there. And then you see people putting comments, but they never come back to update. Like, what was the result? What is it? So I felt like it was like really useless in that point. But then trying to find people in the community, it's very hard, because it's like, again, it's a sensitive subject and everybody goes through their own journey of when they want to open up and talk about it. And it took me about 4 years to finally be able to have this podcast to really openly talk about it. And it took me that long to feel confident, to feel okay to speak to it and not feel triggered. So whether I was going online, like I said, there weren't many people openly talk about the tough emotional parts of the miscarriage. And while a therapist could absolutely help, but in my experience, it felt very medical driven. Like I would often walk out of those sessions like, what did I learn? Like I just felt no connection, and I felt like I needed that connection or comfort that I was craving for, that I couldn't get from a clinical side. So while I'm saying therapy isn't helpful, but for some people it's life-changing. But for me, personally, it wasn't the right fit. And I'll be sharing more details in a later episode about why I chose to go the holistic healing route instead, and how that shifted everything for me. Another piece that doesn't get talked about enough is how miscarriages impacts your relationship. So when you're in grief or when you're caught in that control mode, it's so easy to forget to take care of each other. Communication breaks down, you both end up hurting in silence. That's why in my coaching, I make it a point to work with both partners. Not just the wife, not just the husband, not just the one domestic partner. It's both. Because miscarriages can either make your relationship stronger or it could break you apart. And that's something that, from my experience, I learned very, very well. I always encourage couples to go back to the basics. Like, remember the happy times before the baby journey. Again, the baby does not define both of you, does not define you as an individual. You still got to live life. You still got to enjoy who you really are. And enjoy your relationship prior to the baby making or the baby journey and the baby miscarriage. Remind yourself why you fell in love in the first place. Give each person space to work on their own healing and grieving process. And then come back together, because when you've done the inner work as individuals, you bring a different subconscious mindset into the relationship. The walls come down and clarity starts to take place. That's when you can really move forward as a team instead of two people carrying the pain alone. Looking back, I wish I had stepped away from the internet. As much as the internet is such a great source, it is also a place that can drive you insanely crazy with the amount of information is there. Really focus on supporting yourself and the relationship instead of spiraling into the control mode. And that's exactly why I now help others as a wellness coach. I guide people through the hard parts of infertility, miscarriage, not just the medical side, but the emotional, rational, and subconscious side too. Because the truth is, healing isn't just about your body, it's about your mindset, your behavior, your relationship, and how you care for yourself in the middle of the pain. And when those things shift, your whole life starts to shift. Your health, your relationship, even your sense of abundancy. Thank you for being here with me on this first episode of Hope, Health, and Ha-Has. If this resonates with you, hit subscribe, share this podcast with someone who might need it, and follow me on Instagram at Winny, capital AK, and also at Ray of Light Fertility Foundation. You could support us at Ray of Light Fertility Foundation by helping us launch at GoFundMe to help bring hope to more families on this journey. Until next time, take care of your body, protect your peace, and remember, healing is hard, but it doesn't have to be humorless.